When Blackburn Rovers had won their first and only Premier League title in 1995, it was an ultimate shock, bringing disbelief to the people of this Lancashire town. But in all honesty, this was probably the anticipated outcome with where the late and great Jack Walker was taking his boyhood football club. This shouldn't downplay just how truly incredible this achievement was, though. If we give it a modern day comparison, it's like Sunderland, who won the playoff final this year, just like Blackburn did in 1992, going on to winning the Premier League 2 seasons from now in 2028. Basically, this shouldn't have happened, and it did in Blackburn's case. But where did it all go wrong for what was once known as the mighty Rovers? Stick with me today to deep dive into the huge decline that Blackburn Rovers have gone through in the last 10 years or so. If you like what you see as well, then why not subscribe to the channel? Let's begin. It'll be 10 years next year since Leicester done an even bigger shock with winning the league. We can all agree it was a huge shock compared to Blackburn's 95 winning season, but they still were able to somewhat remain in England's highest division, or certainly have been for the larger proportion in the last 10 years. One obvious obstruction that stops a continuous fluidity of Premier League football, or attracting top profile players, or even keeping well rated managers at Blackburn Rovers, comes from a moment in November 2010 when current owners, the VH Group, took over this Lancashire football club. First call of action was to sack the manager that kept the club up, that man being Sam Allardyce. After Rovers lost to Bolton on the 12th of December 2010, the owners believed Allardyce was the wrong man for their plans. The Venkys wanted a top 4 finish, and they looked to appoint Steve King to be Allardyce's successor. Steve King got 15 wins in the Premier League for the remaining time he spent as Blackburn manager, which that career ended in September 2012. He kept them up in that first season at the club, but the season after, the club finished 19th. That was 13 years ago. Blackburn Rovers haven't been back to the Premier League since. This football club is a complete definition of a sleeping giant, but with the Venkys still at the club, that sleeping giant, as I'll call it, just seems to be more sleepier and sleepier by the day. That's the understanding that we all share, right? Just seems we're all misperceived by these owners who aren't matching the same level of hunger that Jack Walker had all them years ago. The Rao family, who own Venkys, bought the club for £43 million, 20 million of that being used to clear off unpaid debts. The football club hasn't been profitable for the majority of the time the Rao family have been here. There's been a lack of desire for them to really change that, despite the Venkys having a net worth between £1.5 to £2 billion estimated. Rovers fans have never really seen the owners financially back the manager. It seems to be the real issue here, and we'll get onto it a bit more later. But the one time that the club were profitable, when they succeeded the sale of Adam Wharton to Crystal Palace last year for a fee between 18 to 22 million pounds. All that profitable year was pretty much used to pay unpaid debts, to clear them off. It just seems to be a merry-go-round with the amount of debts that this club has to pay off. And in that profitable year, John Eustace was able to keep the club up, and the season after this, it looked promising with Eustace still leading the ship here. But let's remember, this club hasn't had a real chance of promotion since the Venkys have been here. Not once have they finished in a playoff place. The highest finish came in the 22-23 season, when current Sweden manager John Dahl Tomasson unfortunately missed the playoff places because of goal difference. Just like what Frank Lampard will now be going through, prepared to fight again next season and try and get the job done, due to getting knocked out by Sunderland in the playoff semi-final. Tomasson didn't have the same belief when it came for Blackburn Rovers, though. When it came to seeing the budgets he'd be working with for his second season in charge at this football club, it seemed that he just had his eyes firmly set on the exit door by that point. And remember, a remarkable name, a remarkable manager to have at this club. He really made a good impression on himself in that first season as Blackburn manager. And it's probably one of the modern day what if moments that Blackburn fans will certainly debate about in the modern day, with just how far John Dow Tomlinson could have took this club if the owners would have just backed him a little bit more. I mean, a manager who had won back-to-back league titles with Malmo just before joining Blackburn Rovers. Speaking with the Mirror about his exit, he said this: "I love the people in and around Rovers, but before my second season, the budgets were cut even more brutally, and suddenly it was not about building and developing. It was not the project anymore that I signed up to do, and I asked to be allowed to leave." And since then, he's been quite a revelation for the Sweden national team, as they now have John Dow Tomlinson as their head coach, and he's shown the means so far to have a good chance in turning this team around and becoming a good fighting winning side for the 2026 World Cup. But yes, Tomlinson did leave because of their strict budgeting. He felt he couldn't move this club and transform them any further than what he had done already in the season before this. 7th was incredible for this club. It was the highest finish they'd had in an English football pyramid in over 11 years. And an added bonus came too with a good FA Cup run that season too. Rovers got to the quarterfinals. Your first concerning question, and one you definitely ask if you're a Rovers fan, is why didn't the ownership capitalise on this? How they went about providing John Dow Tomlinson with the necessary funding, if you can even call it that, was just appalling. It goes without saying, but strike whilst the iron is hot, and the VH group did not do that. They missed out on an opportunity. They missed out on the opportunity for trying to battle, to trying to gain promotion to the Premier League. It's what the fans want. Take Brighton owner Tony Bloom. In 2016, he was almost $1 billion less than what the Venkys are today. I mean, initiative took its course and the Seagulls spent just under £9 million, which was a lot for the market in 2016. Players were bought in who were crucial to seal that second place spot. The likes of Glenn Murray, who was their top goal scorer, and Shane Duffy, a crucial strong leader at the back. The season before this saw them spend £13 million, so even more than the season after this, which was when they did finally go up to the Premier League for the first time ever in their club's history. And just remember that as well, the VH group are worth a whole lot more than Tony Bloom was in 2017 when he got the Seagulls promoted. After that 7th place finish in 2023, the club saw £1.5 million spent on signings. They saw Ben Brereton Diaz leave on a free for acceptably a better club to Villarreal. But was there no attempt in trying to extend his contract through the increase in funds? Money's the main incentive for sure, but to create a togetherness with a striker who got 14 goals for the team in the Championship the season before this, and to sell him the dream of Premiership football, should have been the obvious move for the owners if they had any real interest in achieving promotion. Players were leaving and Rovers were finding it hard to keep them there. Thomas Kaminski, the goalkeeper, went to Luton for Premier League football. Adam Wharton left eventually for January 2024 on deadline day, as we mentioned, and he was a huge successful part for Blackburn Rovers and one main highlight for the club to be proud about. And that fee rising to £22 million for the defensive midfielder was the huge financial backbone to make the club profitable. But the facts are this: the fans didn't see everything from this sale reinvested back into the club whatsoever. The timing was just right too, as when Adam Wharton had departed, so did John Dow Tomlinson. The truth of it though was the club were in such an embarrassingly large amount of debt at the time. That sale of £22 million had to be used to clear it off. Like I said, it was the first time the club were profitable in 11 years, but why were there so many debts? Well, the Venkys, how they went away with injecting cash into the club through loans rather than grants, it was just an awful dismissal of how to handle a football club, or certainly how to handle injecting a large amount of cash into this football club. They got it wrong. Loan repayments were valued between 21 to 26 million pounds in 2011. At the end of the 2011-12 season, when Blackburn had gone down, there was reports of a pre-tax loss worth up to 18.6 million pounds, up from just 1.9 million the previous year, with wages reaching between 50 million to 57 million pounds worth of turnover. By the end of the financial year in 2018, there were debts needed to be paid up to 130 million pounds, disclosed by Her Majesty's Company House in this document here. But there's suspicious loans in there, as Blackburn Rovers is owned by the Venkys, yes, but through Venkys London Ltd, making it a subsidiary, a company controlled by a parent company. Instead of being run to make a profit or reinvest it back into the football club, they have accumulated debts from the parent company. They owe money back to that parent company when the time comes, and it's used primarily to hold and manage that debt rather than operate independently. As an example, it's essentially like the Venkys giving Blackburn Rovers a £20 million loan figure. Blackburn use it to stay afloat with wages and running costs, etc. But now Blackburn Rovers owe Venkys £20 million. If the club ever makes money, like the Adam Wharton sale, that money might go to pay back Venkys, not to buy new players. And these tactics allow them to benefit financially while providing what looks to be an ongoing investment, as we'll say, into Blackburn. But most of that is flowed through their own pockets, not directly into the team. It's a horrible, vicious circle that the fans are sadly in the middle and part of, seeing how their own football club is run on a day-to-day basis. We can pretty much call it a failed project, and one that no manager really wants to encounter for that long in time. I mean, just ask any of the managers that came before Thomason, Tony Mowbray, Owen Coyle, or even Gary Bowyer. And a new name we can add to the list this season is John Eustace. In a 12-month tenure, John Eustace transformed the club, giving them stability, as it looked to be another landslide season tilting towards the dismal return of League One football for Ewood Park, as they finished 19th previously. Back in February this year, Eustace left the club to join Derby County, pretty much a year after the previous manager left, and you guessed it, it's because of that lack of financial backing from the owners. John Eustace had finally opened his eyes and realised just how vicious of a circle it was with that ownership kind of model that the club has. Incredibly as well, Rovers were 5th in the league, nicely in the playoffs, when John Eustace left. And controversially, it's debated a lot of Blackburn fans online, and it'd be very interesting to hear your opinion if you're a Blackburn fan, what you thought of that departure, as John Eustace was here at the club for a whole year, and it's rumoured that he never once spoke to the owners. The same owners who have a net worth between £1.5 to £2 billion. The fact that John Eustace took the Derby job, which could have led to him failing to keeping the Rams up, which might have even made him jobless after that. So a sad case that could have damaged his managerial career. The fact that that all happened despite having a say in the promotion chase to the Premier League with Rovers, that all just quite clearly shows just how badly the Venkys are affecting Blackburn Rovers. The whole club is deteriorating from top to bottom, and it wouldn't be too bad if the previous owners were just as bad, if not worse. They were quite literally the opposite. And let's talk about Jack Walker now, as he literally showed the footballing world that hard work really does pay off. I think for me, the actual cherry on top to the whole mess of this football club is exactly how Derby County got easy access of appointing John Eustace in the first place. Of course, Eustace made it obvious that he wanted to leave, but an easy access to obtaining the 45-year-old coach was through a release clause worth between £500,000 to £750,000. Why did Blackburn wish to even include this in the contract in the first place? It's just one of many elements that leaves the club vulnerable and unsuccessful. It's one we also see a lot in the modern game these days. Clubs like to have release clauses on their own managers. It's how Tottenham were able to obtain Thomas Frank from Brentford with a release clause worth between 9 million to 10 million pounds. Overall though, John Eustace wanted to leave, and he liked the visionary that owner and fan David Klaus shared. He has the same sort of hunger and vision like previous Blackburn Rovers owner, the late and great Jack Walker, once had. John also wanted to be closer to his family too in the Midlands. But I do wonder if Jack Walker was here right now, would it have led to John Eustace wanting to stay at the football club? There's a reason why clubs say, let's find the next Jack Walker. Yeah, that statement couldn't be truer, perhaps, than it is right now for Blackburn Rovers, ironically. Jack Walker romanticised his own team in such remarkable fashion. How financially well endowed he was translated through the team pursuing longevity in the Premier League with silverware along the way, which gave Rovers fans memories of a lifetime. You really saw that when both Alan Shearer and Chris Sutton broke the British transfer record fees in 1992 and 1994. In his first 3 years of ownership, we saw him splash £25 million in player signings, an incredible amount back then. He also invested £20 million in renovation costs, making Ewood Park over 30,000 in capacity. That was supported from his own trade, as he donated his own building materials to support the new Riverside stand at the stadium. So yes, he was quite literally putting his own hard work into this club. And it was evident that the whole town was meant to be seeing the magic that was being created here. He wanted his club to be elevating up to the Premier League and out of what was then the second division. Just imagine a championship side, a side that should be bouncing back up or getting promoted. I'll use Southampton for instance. Imagine the Saints employed Jurgen Klopp simply because the owner literally had the means and the drive to get Southampton not only out of the championship, but then fighting to win a Premier League title. That's what Jack Walker literally did, more or less, in the early 90s with the appointment of Kenny Dalglish. This excellent football ownership all happened from 3 simple elements that Walker had: the money being the obvious one, the footballing knowledge, and finally the main ingredient of success here, which was his love and passion for Blackburn Rovers. I think it's quite easy to see and understand why Blackburn Rovers for many years now have been fighting for these owners to leave their football club. They had a memory and pure nostalgia of just how brilliant, of just how much of a utopian club that they were supporting through the 90s. Fans in their 60s or 50s or even 40s will all have a good memory of what it felt to be in such secure hands and have their club only heading towards success and good fortunes. The late and great Jack Walker did not come from such a hard-working background and provided, like I say, the means to see his own beloved football club crack and decline like it is currently right now. We move to the present day, and Valérien Ismaël is the successor of John Eustace. The two of them, more John than Ismaël, have seen the club get their joint highest finish in the championship under the VH group this season. The fact Rovers went for Valérien is perhaps a foreseeable one, given it would have been the cheaper option. Don't get me wrong, he's a manager with good championship experience. I mean, let's not forget how well he done with Barnsley in that 2020 to 21 season. It's all well and good disappointment, but did the club ever approach Rob Edwards, who literally won the playoffs with Luton in 2023? Good experience, knows how to do just that. It would have been a pitch perfect choice for Rovers. But as far as the owners are concerned, Edwards would have been a higher cost to appoint compared to Valérien Ismaël. Again, that's due to that lack of desire to get out of this league. It's due to the fact that they want to just fill up their own pockets with money. They don't really care do they? Their detached attitude with the whole club is starting to sprout out through the women's team. A really sad day when it comes to women's football, as the team now looks to go down 2 divisions due to the owner's lack of interest to meet the necessary funding for the division's new minimum licence requirement. It's a disappointing outcome, leaving players and fans angry and upset. Yet this is another example and insight in the Venkys having no love for Blackburn Rovers whatsoever. If there's no love for the football club, then where is it going to? Well, to their very successful poultry business in India. It's extremely profitable, but the truth is in the pudding. Blackburn Rovers could be a profitable venture too if they invested more time and money into it. Instead, they just want this operation to quite simply keep ticking over. They want to be in that large amount of debt because it literally appeals to both parties involved with that parenthood ownership. That's between the Venkys London and the Venkys themselves. In response to this incompetent ownership, many fans have voiced it through protests outside the stadium, boycotting, and we've even seen Blackburn legend Simon Garner lead a fan group to install pressure on the Venkys to sell up in 2016. Let's remember as well that there was a point where the owners got this club sinking badly into League One. You talk about a fall of grace, and Leicester, like we said earlier at the start of the video, did win the Premier League in 2016, but we've at least seen them have the efforts and the means to bounce back to Premiership football since then. We've also seen the Blackburn Rovers Football Club Action Group try and lure head footballing departments like Rudy Gestede and Steve Waggett to avoid the final 8 games of the season, to just show how the fans and club feel with current ownership. There's also an active petition, which I'll leave in the bio down below if you wish to look at it, of course, titled "Save Blackburn Rovers, Demand an Urgent Investigation into Venky's Ownership," and it's garnered significant attention. All of who I've mentioned have all voiced and put practicals in to just simply show how badly they want the Venkys to sell up. Many fans in the 90s dreamt about winning the Premier League title. In the modern day, the fans are simply dreaming for the Venkys to sell up and move on. That looks unlikely as of right now. It would have been an anniversary present itself for the fans to see a return to the Premier League. Realistically though, the club would have been set up to fail when they hit top division football, as you have to invest big to at least be worthy of having a gamble to stay up these days. We can't see the Venkys willing to do that now, can we? Just how much more can they worsen this great historic football club and a founding member of the 1888 Football League? When will this madness end? The 95 league win just seems like it was a pipe dream at this point in time now. I would love to explore more with Kenny Dalglish at Blackburn and that 95 win inside, given the fact that it is the 30th anniversary this year. So let's do that in another video, and if you'd like to see that, then please like and subscribe. We would love to have you on board here. Blackburn Rovers Football Club, perhaps the biggest sleeping giant in not just English football, but potentially in the world of football. Will they ever get the light and credit and even backing that the players, that the staff, and most importantly that the fans deserve here? A takeover is the only answer here for new owners to come in. That's what all Rovers fans are pretty much patiently waiting for right now. Any Blackburn Rovers fan would bite your arm off for it. Blackburn Rovers fans, how vicious is that circle of that parenthood ownership? Just how bad are times right now with the Venkys being the owners of the football club, and how dismissal the club has declined over many years now? Get involved. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. And if you've made it this far, then thank you so much for watching. Please be sure to like and subscribe. My name's been Rob. This has been the Footy Agenda. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next one.